Happy Sunday to you and yours. It is midday on Sunday, and just wanted to make this video talking about February and what's probably going to be happening this month. There's definitely going to be a big drop-off of sales, of book sales, from January to February. I've already seen the dramatic decrease where I was getting around in the neighborhood of and up to 10 sales over a 24-hour period for several weeks there, sometimes more, and getting up to 60, I believe 60 some odd sales over a week, which for me was record setting because of back to school, and I sold a ton of books. But February is definitely going to be a drop-off. Doesn't mean that February is bad. For me, last year, based on hardly having any books in stock, I made 23 sales in February of 2015, which I was ecstatic about because that's when I had started finally sending in more books and gradually getting better at picking books that are going to sell, either sell quicker or sell for good money. At some point anyway. That was sort of the start for me, February of last year, of moving towards making this a more real and consistent and sustainable business. So it's, even though January is over and sort of the party is over of peak book sales, the February should be still pretty good. In the first 5 days of February, I have I believe about 12 sales. So that's good for me, averaging, at least two plus a day. So I'm trying to do, have a solid start off to the year outside of the craziness of January. So speaking of January, well, and also a little bit about December. October is generally kind of slow for sales, book sales. I had, I believe, 63 sales in October, but then gradually they got better and better all the way up till January, which was my best month so far in about a little over a year of doing this. When I hit November, it was about mid to closer towards late, about 10 days to go of November, late November, when sales started to pick up for the holidays. But when I hit November, I believe I had just over 2,000 in inventory, maybe 2,100. I started to see sales increase in November there. Definitely after mid-November. The first few weeks were just sort of normal sales, but it started to go up in mid-November and then get better towards the end, and then much better in December. I had, I believe it was 80 some sales, 83, I can't remember exactly, in the 80s. In November, but then for me, December was record breaking. I did 160 sales in December, off having 2,200 some odd items in stock. The sales were good through basically all of December, but they were the best, and they started to go through the roof about 2 weeks before Christmas. So mid-December, about just around December 10th, December 12th, it seemed like a switch flipped on, and people just started buying like crazy. And I was selling books, VHS tapes, and CDs, and I also sold some video games that I still had in stock from earlier in the year. So definitely December is incredible. That's why I recommend diversifying beyond books into other media, because you can take advantage of that throughout the year and in December. So then December was incredible for me, 160 sales, which, that was a short time. I went from hardly any sales in January of 2015. I think I don't even remember, but hardly any sales at all. And then and then February, hit 23, which was great for me. And then it was going up from there. But then in January, once back to school started, which was about mid-January is when it really kicked in big time. Although the first week to 2 weeks of January were very good too. I think, back to school, even though back to school, the main part of it, the highest sales of that is mid to late January. Students are still buying books end of December and beginning of January before they actually have to go back to school. So the sales do really well throughout the month. The sales stayed steady all the way through into February. Then they slowed down. They slowed down about the last day or two of January, but they were just crazy there for about 2 weeks. In January, I sold 226 items, which was a record for me, and just was crazy to see how in a year I went from basically selling 10 or less items a month to 226 in January. And that was now that dramatically reduced my inventory. We're talking from 2,200 something. Now I have close to 2,000 items in stock, which is great, right? You want to sell out your stock. You don't want to necessarily just always have tons and not be selling. You want a high sell-through rate, relatively speaking. Books sell slower, but you want to sell them. So 226 sales, which, I mean, maybe if you're watching this and you've been doing this for a while, it might not seem like a lot, but for me it was huge, and it just proved that this business you can grow this business and it can do incredible numbers, and how important it is to scan and source a lot and really get used to seeing the kind of books that actually will sell and do sell. I sent in that big shipment of 250 items, so I'm excited for that to hit the warehouses hopefully this week. It should all be in there by the end of the week at the latest, I would imagine. Sort of full steam ahead here. Focus, source, list, ship, because you want to build up that inventory so when those peak months hit, and the next one being August, you can sell a boatload of books. January was mostly books for me. I sold a few handful of VHS tapes, well, more than a handful, but not nearly as many as I did in December. But definitely books is the biggest thing in January for me. Understand that if you've only been doing this for a little bit, then December and January were great. February is going to be a lot less, a lot slower, but still, if you build up your inventory, February is still going to be a good month. It's just not going to be as good as the other months. That's the funny thing about this, is you can build a steady income, but understand that a bulk of or a hefty chunk of your sales and income will come in 3 months out of the year. January, August, and December. At least they did for me. You can throw in September and November as 2 other good months as well. So let's stay focused on getting those books in there, diversifying your inventory, building it up. I want to, hit August with probably, I would love to have 4,000 in inventory. That would be awesome. And sell just a bunch of books and hopefully beat out what I did in January. Because I know in a year, when January comes next year, I'd like to have about 5,000, maybe more in inventory. My goal would be to sell 800 to 1,000 items in January, and December also be phenomenal too. So let's have big goals and let's accomplish those. Remember, keep booking.